Hello. So we left off in our last video on the Gita, talking about essential and inessential, talking about what is natural and what is unnatural, and this point that you can't change anyone else, you can't make anyone else be natural. Only you can make yourself be natural. No one else can make you natural. And in the context of the story of the Gita, you have Arjuna faced with this world full of unnatural people, which is what we have to deal with all the time, right? That there's a world. Gurdjieff would have called it a world of robots, right? A world of people that are following these programmed directives of the influence of culture, of paradigms, um, of parental influence, of early childhood experiences, of whatever, that is leading them to make choices that are not part of essential nature. And Arjuna, being surrounded by these unnatural people, for him to do something that was unnatural, which was to not act, not to be there, not to participate and play his actually natural part, that wouldn't have solved anything. So he had to act, Krishna was suggesting, because for him to follow his nature would help bring more of what was natural into the world. There's this bigger picture of the flow of reality, you could say, that is something beyond the limits of our normal perception. And when we tap into this essence, to what is essential, and we're completely beyond the mind, like I said in the previous video, then we're tapping into this. It's not like a master plan. It's not something necessarily that is, this great scheme of how to organize the world. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm suggesting that there is a natural state, and that the more we act within that natural state, the closer we get to our essence through this yoga of assessment, the first of the yogas, which is this can be described as self-inquiry, of being able to look within the self, find what is unnatural, and recognize it as unnatural. And I was saying in the previous video about these questions of morality, I'm not saying that, because you recognize that your concepts of right and wrong are a product of this conditioning, that you should simply discard them, right? Because there are times when you might have to act on them, but it works differently if you're acting on them, recognizing them as part of a paradigm, than if you believe that this is some kind of an absolute right or wrong, that this is what's natural. And what's natural is actually something, like I said, that's beyond our ken. And the more that we bring that essential nature into the moment, the more natural the world becomes around us. And this has a long term, very long term, we're talking here, beyond the after effects rest beyond our lifetimes, that allow change to happen, that allow for the evolution, the unfolding of humanity and of reality of the world. So let's look at the next few verses now. This is chapter 2, verse 26 to 28. But even if you think that this essence is one that is always being reborn and dying, there's still no reason to grieve. For anyone who is born is sure to die. This is known for certain. Thus, there's no reason to grieve for that which was bound to occur. That which in the beginning has no form gains form in the middle and is then destroyed and once again becomes formless. All things are such, Sayana Brahma. So why grieve? So here Krishna turns this issue around and says, okay, now let's assume for a moment that in fact what you're saying is true, and that there isn't any part that is eternal, that is essential, and instead everything is just what it is. It's all just matter, and you live and then you die, right? If that's the case, then there really is no cause for grieving um, the end of things, the destruction of things, to die and to have to kill for some kind of immediate good, right, or something like that, which is what Arjuna is facing. Because if that was the case, then it wouldn't really matter, would it? If there's nothing that is the essential. And this is an argument that has been examined from the philosophical point of view by many different cultures. And for example, the Roman philosopher emperor Marcus Aurelius has a similar sort of presentation where he says, if this is all there is to our existence, then the only thing that matters is to do what is right, because if there's nothing else, if there's no afterlife, there's no judgment, there's nothing that is an eternal seed within us. If we're purely matter, then the only thing that would matter would be what we do in this moment. On the other hand, if there is some incomprehensible force, some noumena, some essence that is real, beyond the finality of matter, then the only thing that would matter would be for us to be able to fulfill as best as possible what would allow that to manifest in the world. And so if there's no way of comprehending it at all, if there's no way of acting on it, then it would be as if it doesn't exist. If there is a way of comprehending it, then we have to assume that the way to comprehend it is by being as manifestly ourselves as possible, by being able to uncover it through action. So in either case, whether there is no essential or there isn't, we have to fulfill what is our absolute nature, what is the reason for action in the world. And so one way or the other, we need to be able to focus on this moment, right? This is the only time that you're going to find it. You couldn't possibly find it in the past because you didn't already. You can't find it in the future because it doesn't exist yet. So regardless of you don't have to believe that there is some kind of an immortal essence. You don't have to believe in enlightenment, for example, if we're bringing this to the question of the spiritual search, right? In fact, if you believe in enlightenment, you're probably going to trip yourself up because you're probably going to bring in these unnatural conditions into your understanding of enlightenment. You're going to base what you imagine enlightenment to be on something you heard about the Buddha or some movie you saw with Keanu Reeves or something like that. And so you're going to project that into your perception of what enlightenment is and start looking for that, and you're going to get lost somewhere trying to find Keanu Reeves. On the other hand, if you start without belief, if you start without, not without belief in the sense of rejection of something, but in the sense of saying, let us just explore this moment as it is, then you don't need to figure out beforehand, oh, is there actually enlightenment or isn't there? You just need to start doing these spiritual practices. You need to start meditation. You need to start a spiritual discipline and then see what happens. And if there is no such thing, then you won't really have lost anything, because at the end of the day, you're going to be dead and that'll be it. But you'll still have been able to engage in an endeavor that has radically improved your ability to be whole in life if you've done it well, right? That you've given your life purpose in this moment. And if there is enlightenment, then that already was the purpose and you're fulfilling it. So here Krishna is using a variety of this yoga of assessment, this neti-neti idea, in a slightly more complex way, to break down potential objections that Arjuna might have, and also to make clear this understanding that it doesn't matter that you believe. The point isn't believe Krishna any more than it is believe anybody else. The point is you have to have this experience beyond the mind. And you can only do that by yourself. Only you can make it happen by acting on it. So I think that's it for today.